So I was a bit skeptical of doing a review on the Creative Aurvana Ace 2s. I own a pair of Apple AirPod Pro 2s, and in most cases, the competition just tends to come up a little short. Sorry, Apple haters, they really do have these figured out. When I say most come up short, it's a bit more complicated than that though. It's not necessarily the sound quality that wins me over, which is going to be interesting when comparing to Aurvana. It's more so the platform as a whole. Everything works and does exactly as they intended it to. Phone calls, Siri, switching between devices, it's really just a smooth integration. Where I think a device like the Aurvana Ace 2 might come into play is the actual sound quality. This might be the easiest target to go after, so let's dive into that, as well as other features such as active noise cancellation, transparency mode, the cases, and the software where I think these really might benefit the Aurvana. First things first, these retail for $149.99, but at the moment they're on sale for $129.99. They claim 24 hours of total playtime if you include the charging case, and 6 hours per charge, but that mileage will definitely vary depending on your settings and volume. It uses a XMEMS driver for the highs and a separate 10mm dynamic driver for the lower mid-range and bass. It also supports Bluetooth 5.3 and Qualcomm aptX lossless, has 6 mics and noise cancellation for gamer phone calls, water resistance rated at IPX5, as well as touch controls. Let's start from the top on these in areas that I like and think that they actually excel in, and then work our way down in order from pros to cons. Basically, top and best performance down to, well, problems in some cases. The sound performance with these after the latest firmware update was surprisingly good. The deep bass performance is actually well above what I'm getting from the AirPod Pro 2s. You also need to remember that during my description today, the sound quality is being compared to wireless IEMs, not wired, which has many advantages. Just keep that in mind as I'm talking through this. Listening to several songs, I'm getting something that actually has a presence in the lower frequencies. It's not the tightest bass out there, but it's certainly providing more, and it's at the very least decent quality. I also found it EQ'd quite easily if you need to tame that boom down just a little bit. For any genre that focuses on a strong bass note, it's going to be really obvious right when you put these on. It's the most obvious distinction if I were to pair these up against the AirPods, and I truly believe that I could pick these out 10 times out of 10 in a blind lineup. I would say that these might do really well for gaming, which is likely where a lot of these will end up anyways. It's more so a fun sound with a bit of a boost on the low end. Not flat, but in all honesty, a lot of people are not looking for dead flat on their tuning. A little extra can provide a sense of dynamics that a lot of people really appreciate. The upper mid-range and treble is on par with the AirPods, excellent driver clarity, and a really smooth sound. The performance on the XMEMS driver really appears to have a strong future, and from what I understand, it's quite simple to integrate, so we'll likely be seeing more of these in the future. I would say these have a similar presence and clarity to the AirPods, but it's honestly close, and you might be able to find your way to the better sound there after modifying some of the EQ. Which brings me to the next highlight, the software. I wasn't even aware of the app on these until I started looking into updating the firmware on these. It's a simple but decent app. You get your battery life, an equalizer that lets you select between presets or even build out your own and save it to its preset list. You get your ambient controls, either adaptive ANC, off, or ambient mode. You notice these two haven't came up yet, and that just might be telling you something here. The last option on the main menu is the customizable buttons, which is nice because it's a bit of a pain to recall some of these. Certain commands are on the left ear and others on the right. The app was a nice touch here, and it's something missing from the AirPods. In most cases, the AirPods don't really require it, since things like battery life are integrated into the iOS software on your phone. But this at least gives you a little more control over the device, especially the EQ settings, which really pay off for the Ace 2s. The fit, function, and finish on these is comparable in some areas, and not so much in others. They both tend to fit well in my ears. Neither feel like they'd slip out. The included tips in the Aurvana seem pretty decent, better than some of the ones that I get from other IEMs that come in for review as far as how they fit and mold into my ears. The touch functions on the Aurvanas work, but can be a little less sensitive than I'd like. Sometimes I need to attempt the same command more than once, and it's hard to know in some cases if you executed the command or there's just a bit of a delay there. Something that seems really small and trivial, but can actually be somewhat annoying is how you remove these out of the case. You would sort of expect to just be able to slide them right out with your finger, but you sort of need to lift them out. It doesn't affect performance, but it's just a usability note that I wanted to mention. Other cases allow you to just flick them right out, so it might be something they could look into on their next model. On the topic of cases, the Aurvana does do remote charging and it acts as a charging device. It's a bit lightweight feeling and doesn't really bring that premium feel, although thankfully the shape is fine, and even though it's a little bit thicker than some of the other cases that the competition brings, it still fits in your pocket with ease. It has a USB-C charging slot on the bottom, as well as a status light and a pairing button. No speaker on this one to help you locate the case if it gets swallowed up by the couch though. The rose gold on the inside is hit or miss. Some may like it, others not so much. Sometimes I open them up and think, yeah, that's kind of cool. And other times I just look at my 9,000 fingerprints all over it. Now things start to get a little more sticky. The ANC, or active noise cancellation, it works and actually works better after the firmware update, but it just lacks the market leaders in this category. I think it's definitely acceptable and does certainly filter out a lot of the ambient noise, but it's just not all the way there yet. This is commonly the complaint across several brands. It's a feature that is a bit hard to pin down, it seems, and in this case it works, and it works well to a point, but my knock is primarily the slight white noise or high pitch that I can hear if I have nothing playing. If you're listening to music or gaming, it's likely to go unnoticed by you, but it's just something I wanted to make you aware of. It's not the worst ANC implementation by any means. It's just not what I would consider in contention with the top tier devices in this category. An example I went back and forth with several times was just the way it sounded when I typed on the keyboard writing this review. The Ace 2 muffled it, but the click still had a strong presence, more so than others that I tested it against. Also, something sort of strange is while I'm on the phone, I'm unable to toggle the ANC on and off. You're locked into whatever setting you had before answering the call. That feels like something that could be corrected over an update, but it's something that I regularly do if I'm on a call and move from, say, inside in quiet conditions to outdoors, for example, where my neighbor might be mowing his lawn. The biggest fault that I'm going to cover today is the ambient mode. It's just not ready in my opinion. When I think ambient mode and compare it to the market leaders, I get a very clean sound that mimics not even wearing a device. All the sounds are coming through amplification very naturally, voices are clear, and nothing extra is thrown in. What I'm getting with the Ace 2 is sort of like noise cancellation is turned off, and then all the sounds are being amplified through a really high gain. It almost sounds as if I had a white noise machine on at all times. In most cases, I would generally suggest to run these with all filters off if you need to hear things around you. The extra noise being injected into the transparency mode just didn't do it for me. So where does this one fall with me, and does it provide enough value for a recommendation? Yes and no for me. I think the audio performance is on point, and it's actually a lot better than what I was expecting. The low-end performance was really strong, above much of the competition, and the upper mid-range and treble was really well represented with the XMEMS drivers, that I have a strong feeling that we're going to see in the future in a lot more devices like this. The other big selling point was the app. It provides a pretty competent EQ, and for the most part allows you to tailor these to your preferences. These were good for music, gaming, working out with the water resistance rating. I just primarily have an issue with the extras. The ANC was not quite up to the task. It worked, but I was looking for a bit more, and the ambient mode worked as well, but it added a white noise that would, in almost all cases, prevent me from using that feature. The good news here is they still appear to be pushing a number of updates to these, and even the initial performance out of the box to the newest firmware did really help out the product. So I still have some faith that some of the things that I pointed out today are going to get more attention and hopefully bring them up to more of the level of what I was kind of expecting here. So what I'm going to do today is give this one a recommendation at the $129 price point for the user who is looking for its audio performance, especially anyone who listens to genres with a strong bass presence. As well as for gamers, the deep performance will do really well at enhancing the gaming experience, and the new driver does really well with music in general. I won't give a strong recommendation if the user who really needs the ANC or ambient modes, or takes a lot of phone calls. It's just not where this one excels at this point. At the end of the day, it's a fun product that takes a stab at adding some new technology and does do certain things really well. I just try to keep things real and give you guys all the info on usability, as well as what you can generally expect, rather than proclaiming each product the new next best thing. At this point, the channel has over 100 videos covering new and vintage gear, expensive and budget, even a few DIYs like the CSS speakers I'm finishing up the part 2 video for now. If everything goes according to plan, I really feel like these are going to rival the finish of many high-dollar designs. Might be a good one to check out if you're into that. As always, I would appreciate a like and subscribe if you could. Without all of you, this channel wouldn't even exist. So thanks for all the support as well. Take care. Later.